Hey, Dental Nacho's world. It is Paul, Dr. Nacho, talking with my friend, sponsor, amazing resource, Gary Bird. Before we start this podcast, I think gratitude is really important. And I am walking on this treadmill while I'm doing it, thanks to Gary Bird. He invited me to be on his podcast. And Gary, I said, what are you walking on? He said, treadmill. So before we jump into all the marketing and DSOing, tell us about the walking treadmill. How's it been in your life? It's been awesome in mine.
Awesome. Yeah. So I have actually kind of a funny story, a kind of sad story, actually. So before COVID, I did all my meetings. I had headphones and earbuds in, and I would pace everywhere. I'd walk around the yard. I'd walk around the house. And what happened was COVID came and I had to be on camera all the time. And so now I'm in this little box and my anxiety level went through the roof and I couldn't figure out why it was. And I thought maybe it's because I'm on camera, but that wasn't really ever a problem before. So I couldn't figure it out. Well, then I realized, I'm not moving. So I have I'm ADHD entrepreneur to the max. So I have to be moving around when I think. And when I'm talking, I'm thinking a lot of times. And so what ended up happening was I realized I got to move. So I got all these fidget toys. Nothing worked. I got this treadmill. And now I just walk on this thing. I'm barely moving right now. I'm going 1.5 miles an hour. But I started to walk about 5 miles a day or more. And I lost weight. My skin cleared up. I was sleeping better. My anxiety levels, went away. I was eating better. It just and I didn't have to do cardio for working out anymore because that's enough cardio to really carry you through. And it's low impact, so I wasn't sore and all those kind of things. And I could just do weightlifting on the side and not have to worry about cardio. It was absolutely game changer. So I tell everybody, if you're standing at a desk all day or sitting at a desk all day, it just makes sense to have a treadmill.
Awesome. I mean, I really love it. I have to share from my end. I was always on my phone walking around parks in Philadelphia. Sometimes I'd walk into a tree. It sounds funny, but it's dangerous. So, and also, I'm still, practicing dentistry on Tuesdays in my office. And, the setup would still be great for a dentist because there's so much stress and pressure being a dentist. When you go to type up your notes, I'm right here. It'd be great if you were just kind of walking. So not every dental office has the physical space, but if you do, I would check it out. If you want into the ones Gary and I use, my team will share that with you. So just wanted to thank you. Guac gratitude, Gary, the highest level of thanks in my rating. So I'm thrilled to be talking with you. I follow you online. You've been a great resource, sponsor of Dental Nachos. Just to orient our audience to what SMC National does and you do, what are you guys doing on a day in, day out basis to help dentists be more successful, decrease stress, do what they want to do?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing, really the main thing that we do is our company-wise is always growing. So we want everybody that we touch to always be growing. So we first start that with our team. I really believe that if you work with vendors who have amazing cultures, like you guys do over at Dental Nachos, your interactions with those companies will be much better and much more successful. So we hyper-focus on making sure that our team is always growing, both personally and professionally. And we dump a ton of resources into that. We don't have to go into the whole culture thing right now, but that's something I'm super passionate about. But then number two, we want our clients to always be growing as well, because I know that's what they want. And we want to help their team to always be growing. And that can be hard sometimes. And so what we do is we realize that these offices, to grow, they have to have predictable new patients. Right. If you don't have predictable new patients, if it's going up and down every single month, it's really hard to grow. Now, when you have one practice, it's actually a lot easier to figure out. And what I've realized just being in the dental industry for a long time, most dentists or most entrepreneurs, when you have one location, you can kind of operate on your gut and you can kind of fill it out and go, it doesn't feel right. These don't feel like the right kind of patients, or this doesn't feel like the right number of patients. We need a little bit more, a little bit less. And the reason you can fill it out is because you're present in that space. As you begin to add associates and as you begin to add locations, you lose that. You're not able to fill it and you don't have that anymore. And that's where marketing really has to move away from being an emotional thing that you do to being a non-emotional thing where you're using data and numbers. And that's where we can come in and support, is we can actually show what's going on with your marketing. And what most people don't realize with marketing is that most dental marketing fails not because of marketing, but because of operations. And what I mean by that is right now in almost every single market, there's more patients than there are dentists to take care of those patients. The reason I know that is we track for thousands of offices average time to appointment. And right now at post-COVID, it's like 8 days, 9 days
Wow.
right now. And keep in mind, these are patients that want to get in right away. And all these offices are saying, no, we don't have room for you right now. And so there's all these patients out there, but operations doesn't allow them to come in. And what I mean by that is if you spend $10,000 on marketing, let's just say I'm using a round number, the average unanswered call rate, just take a guess, Dr. Nacho, what do you think?
Average unanswered call rate, 20%.
Close, 35%. That's
Wow.
industry average. That's not my numbers. That's what we see, but I've talked to multiple different companies that measure these kind of things. So if you spend 10,000, 30, and here's what everybody's thinking. Oh yeah, after hours, I get that. No. I'm only talking about during business hours. So that's $3,500 down the drain. So now you're at $6,500. Okay, well now Susan answers the phone, and Susan hasn't really ever been trained on the phone, or maybe she did a couple times, but there's no clear accountability. That person's usually going to be around 50% conversion. So now you're at $3,250 of that money. Then if you're scheduling them more than 2 days out, their no-show rate can go to 20 to 30%. What that means is you end up getting about $2,000 of that marketing through your door of that 10,000. And then you're like, I don't know if it's working or not. No, it's not working. But you can change the marketing until the cows come home. It's not going to change anything.
I really like what you said there, especially about the transparency and data. I mean, you're talking to a group of people, and dentists, Gary, that like to measure things in millimeters. So you gave us a great overview. I just want to dig in a little deeper to a couple of these things. I know my audience will like this. You know, when you talk about understanding the data with this and being able to track things, dentists love that, you know, how to track. When you and your team onboard somebody new, what does the dentist need to do to help you understand this ROI? I'll just talk for 30 more seconds. You hire a personal trainer, they want you to use MyFitnessPal to track your calories. You never use MyFitnessPal and you say, oh, the personal trainer is not helping me lose weight. So, you know, I think there's a myth of, you know, you just pay for a service and it works magically, but we all know, just like telling our patients, they have to brush their teeth and take care of them. So what kind of expectations would a dental office need to have to say, hey, we're partnering together. How we're going to work on this together?
Yeah, so I think dentists love data, and I think this is why I'm naturally drawn towards the dental industry as a marketer, is because of they consume the information, right? They really want it. The problem is I also think that's the downfall of the dentist as well, because they want to know everything about marketing, but coming in and learning all the metrics around marketing, just like going into Google Analytics as an example and actually learning that, and then going into Google AdWords and learning that, and then going into Facebook ads and learning that, and actually learning it at a high level would be like me going in and learning how to place fillings at a high level. There's a big learning curve, right? I'm not going to do it part-time, and I'm not going to learn it in an afternoon or during a weekend course that I pick up on. So what ends up happening is you have all this marketing data over here, and there's literally millions of touch points, and you're trying to make educated decisions off of that. It's not going to happen. Right. You can guess, and you can randomly throw the dart at the board and say, we need to change this, that, or the other. What you have to do is you have to find a partner that you trust and say, hey, I want you to figure all that out for me. Just like I go to the dentist and have them figure out my filling. I don't try to do it myself. And I actually trust them to do it and say, you're going to do a really good job at this. So you have to find that partner. And then once you get that partner, you want to roll up everything into the simplest data point as you can, because that saves you time as the dentist. So the same way that I don't want to understand like all the chemicals and all the different bonding agents inside the filling, I just want to know that I trust you as a dentist and you're going to do what's best for me. And then I want to, at the end, I just want to be able to chew and it looks normal, and that's all I care about. So I'm lowering my expectation down to one metric or two metrics to be able to measure that. I think marketing, that's really important, and that's what we've done, is we lower everything into one metric of cost per lead. So that means how much does it cost to generate a phone call to your office? And we want that number to be as low as possible for you. So as you put that I'm just using round numbers, as you put that $10,000 in, if you only get one patient to call, that's $10,000 cost per lead. That's bad. That's not good. You're not going to be able to function. But if we get it down to $100, right, and you're getting, what is that, 100 new patients or whatever, that I think that works out math-wise, 100 new patient opportunities, that's good. So now you don't have to worry about SERP rates, bounce rates, click-through rates, all the time on site. Who cares? It doesn't matter. You're good at that. You solved that. You got my cost per lead to 100. Then I think that's the really important part, From there, then you got to get clarity on the next parts, which we already talked about, is once the handoff happens between marketing and operations, what's happening there? So if I got 100 opportunities, how many of those are getting scheduled? Well, it might only be
this. I want to jump in because I've been a dental practice owner for 2 decades. I test, not guess. Have a new patient appointment every day, have none for a month, have them at 4, have them at 8. So I'm actually interested personally to learn tell us a little bit about this, having to get the patients in with operations and conversion. I mean, I know your team does things that helps with this, but just walk us through, because the dentist is saying, I love this, Gary, but my office is so busy. I don't know how I'm going to figure out these spots. And then they kind of go into negative town. I don't know if you know as dentists and say some of these patients no show. And then I get mad if they no show. So if someone's listening saying, I'm on board with what you're saying, Gary, I got to create more opportunities for people to come in faster. But now just kind of tell us how you guys recommend that gets done.
Yeah, so it's just transparency and being honest with ourselves, right? So one thing that a marketing company usually won't tell you is you shouldn't be spending more money, and that's something that we do regularly. Is like, you don't have any more room. And again, one of the simplest metrics for us, and I don't know anybody else who really measures this, is average time to appointment. So if you were my client and I said, hey, your average time to appointment is 3 weeks right now, and you're like, yeah, I know, Gary, here's $5,000, get me some more patients, I'm gonna go, why? Because you're a dentist and we need more new patients. No, you actually don't. The other thing that we measure, I'm just going to give you some like simple baseline things you can measure. They're hard to get your hands on, but if you can get your hands on them, they're very effective. We measure recare rate of just marketing patients. Now, this one's going to blow your mind. So every dentist that you ever talk to, they say, yeah, I got to practice. I got 50 new patients a month. And I go, okay, what's your recare rate? 90%. Okay, great. So after about a year, you shouldn't need to market again for a long time. And they're like, no, we're still, we need more. We haven't been able to grow in 3 years. That means something's wrong. Something's off there. What happens is your marketing patients are actually only recaring at like 20%.
Yeah.
But you don't see that because you're rolling up all this data and you're taking aggregates instead of very specific data lines. And when you look at patient recare just in marketing, it's usually really low. And if you want to grow, you have to get that higher. And this is where dentists get really frustrated. And this is what I always hear is, I don't want shoppers. I don't want, those bad patients. The thing is that every patient is a shopper. It's just some have been sold dentistry by their friends and family, and now they're a patient referral, and they're not shopping anymore. Right. They already did the shopping with their mom that told them to go into the office. All marketing patients are shoppers, but that doesn't make them bad. The real question that we should be asking is not, are they a shopper, but do they have the resources to afford the dentistry that we offer? And that changes the whole conversation. I always say this, every dentist I've ever met, ever, at any level, are shoppers. Every one of them. Yeah. Every single one of them. That doesn't make them bad customers. It just means that they're really entrenched on getting value. And your marketing patients don't want to get burnt because they've probably been burnt by dentists before. Yeah. And so they just want to be taken care of on the way in. So it's really important that you just don't burn them out and walk them out the back door. That's why so many people are negative about marketing, is because the patient's not getting the experience, the doctor's not getting the experience, and we're looking at our data and the data doesn't add up properly. And so you can't really win that way.
Yeah, I love all that. That's tremendous value. And sometimes, I had this amazing dental assistant whose mom had one of these great cliches that said, if everybody says you stink, you better go smell yourself. So if you've been running through this and this sounds like your story, we're trying to help you reframe the story. And I've done the same thing sometimes too myself, as a dentist of over 20 years. Currently, we have a marketing direct mail piece that's working well for us. I just was there yesterday seeing some of these new patients. We create an opportunity for them to come in as quickly as possible. We actually do a complimentary panoramic digital x-ray and a consultation. And then I look to move them forward to the next step with getting a 3D x-ray. And it's been working well. But sometimes I talk to these patients, Gary, and they never come back, and no big deal, right? Maybe they come back later. Maybe they tell their friend it's good. So sometimes I think dentists have just put too much pressure on themselves sometimes for success. And you're doing stuff that's really hard. You're selling things to people that, even though we know they need them, they don't want them, right? Nobody's come in and said, it'd be like wanting a new furnace. Nobody comes in wanting a new furnace.
Well, and I think sometimes we make the game more complicated than it needs to be too. So here's how I view dental. And again, I'm not a clinician, so don't take it with a grain of salt. But there's really two business models inside of dentistry. There's the Netflix model and there's the Mercedes-Benz model.
Yeah.
The Netflix model is the recurring model. So every month I pay Netflix and we have that up and I pay that bill over and over and again, and they build into a massive company, right? And that's really the GP model is in the pediatric model is that, look, we have patients, we get them back every 6 months. And as long as that patient's coming back every 6 months, you'll eventually get all of their treatment. And they may say no today and they may say yes tomorrow, but as long as they're coming back to that recurring model, you're going to be really successful as a business always, because that's the model. The other model is the Mercedes-Benz model or the car lot model, where you're only as good as your last sale. This is ortho, this is specialty, and that is you every month you have to have opportunities and you have to close those opportunities. And if you don't, you can go to zero, or if you go on vacation, your business literally stops, right? Those are two totally different business models, have different pain points and pressures on them. And they should be approached that way. Right. And if you make it simple, like, hey, I just got to get this person to recare, the game becomes much easier, in my opinion.
I love that. I love the simplification of a lot of things. Tell us, a little bit about this conversion piece and how you guys help coach people for this, because I think it's so key. I have the right word is not embarrassed, Gary, but I've had, because I'm the leader and I strive to help my team, but we've had calls recorded from marketers from years ago, and they say, Susie has no idea what she's saying. And I say, that's my issue. That's my fault. I didn't tell Susie what to say. So if a practice owner is listening and saying, hey, Gary, I'm on board with getting my team to answer the phone better, help with these conversions, what does that mean? And what does your coaching do in that world?
First of all, like, marketing that way is it's so crazy, because it's like, yes, at any time we can catch our team doing something wrong, right? Like it's not hard to do. You could I'm sure if I followed me around for long enough, you could find me messing up or saying the wrong thing. So that doesn't prove anything, right? And it's the same thing with these people. They're like, your website's broken, you need it, and you freak out, right? And it's like, that doesn't actually prove anything. They're just going and finding a negative, which is really easy to do. So that's a horrible way to market as a marketing company. So I'll just call that out right off the bat. Yeah. But let's focus on how do we actually fix that problem. The reason that we have anxiety around our office phones or our office conversion is it's really simple. We just don't have clarity. If you have a clear number, then you can actually hold people accountable. And this isn't just for you. This is how you set your team up for success too. If I go to Susan at the front desk and say, Susan, you stink at your job, get better, I am a horrible leader. Right. I didn't give her any clear metrics. I didn't give her any clear outcomes. I didn't show her how to actually win. If I go to Susan and I say, you stink at your job, but here's some tools to get better, I'm only a decent leader because I don't actually have a benchmark to prove she stinks or she's good. If I'm a good leader, I'm going to put her into a system where I say, hey, Susan, national average is about 50% of people will convert their phone, the new patient calls. I want you to get to 75%. Here's the coaching that you're going to be able to do that. And I'm going to check back in with you in 2 weeks to make sure that you're on that track. And we'll provide you the support that you need to be successful. Most people will succeed in that situation. But we don't provide that environment for them. So what we do, and we realize this because the dental offices, no matter how big or small, the front desk is like a battle zone, right? You got the doctors coming in, you got patients checking in, checking out, the phone's ringing. Like, there's so insurance verification. There's so many things going on at that front desk. So it's a hard job. It's a hard job to be successful at. So what we do is we come in and we help set those benchmarks and those KPIs and then help provide the clarity around that. And here's the thing I've realized. I've never once been successful in marketing for anybody without the front desk winning. So I'm really invested in making sure that front desk wins, because that's really the gate to success to the doctor's office.
Yeah, I mean, I love the message. And, one of the things I reframe Dennis' mindset, because I know Dennis well, because I am one. Gary, we have 8:30 implant, 9:30 crown. Our schedule is very set, and our brains would explode if we did the front desk. Remember, they can't schedule calls. They can get 7 calls in a half hour, no calls for 2 hours.
Well, so imagine on your schedule, imagine if I put all your implants on Friday afternoon at 3:30, because everybody wants to get the implants done at that time. You couldn't do it. That's what happens at the front desk.
And also you're often Dennis, checking hygiene and doing restorative work is insane, Gary. If you're watching us do it, it's really, your brain has to do 2 things at once. And the front desk sometimes has to be handling a treatment plan, taking money, answering the phone. And we just don't have systems built into our entire profession. I mean, I've worked with trying to separate calls over here, doing this over here, but at the end of the day, they are functioning like that host or hostess stand of your dental restaurant, where they have to pretty much be ready for anything. So I think that training is awesome. And your team will help them with that coaching if they need a resource?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So we have coaches from, when COVID kind of, a lot of people got quit their jobs around COVID, right? Or got laid off, and like almost everybody got laid off, right? And so during that time, we actually grew a lot, and we were able to get several team members all throughout our team who have worked in big DSOs. Awesome. They've been hygienists. They've been like trained at the highest level, and they were like, "Hey, I'm looking for something remote. I don't want to go back into the office." Yeah. And so we actually have a lot of dental people that have been in the office. I know a lot about like dental marketing and the top end of the funnel, but I've never worked in an office. I don't get it, right? So we have a lot of people that can support on that front.
That's awesome. Yeah, they talk to our, I want to ask you, this question, because I really like it. You sparked my interest. There is a lot of polarization between DSOs and private practice. I mean, I'm always willing to say I'm Dr. Nacho Goodman. I own a private practice. I help people find jobs with DSOs. I help people sell to DSOs. I help people sell to private practice. My mission is to help dentists succeed in whatever their treatment plan as much as possible, just like a patient. I also, I'm very appreciative of people saying I have a strong voice in the dental industry, but there's never been once a DSO that said, "Hey, Paul, is it okay if we buy these 15 practices?" They've never asked me once, Gary, right? So I am kind of, I just came back from the beach. I'm kind of on this beach with everyone else watching these waves without a real ability to control it. So what can we learn from how DSOs market? What is something a private practitioner or any dentist or any team member could learn from how they market?
Yeah, first of all, I was told, so I started with single practices. So I was taught by all the coaches and all the practices that I worked with, the DSOs are the devil, period. Don't ever talk to them, Gary. Don't ever work with them. They are just bad, bad, bad. They're going to destroy the industry. They're going to destroy your company. They're going to destroy our companies. And that's what I was taught. So I was like, man, I better stay away from those people, right? And then I met
such a dramatic industry. I don't want to interrupt you, but like that whole story.
I was literally told that.
It's very on brand, Gary. I've heard it a million times, right? It's so on brand because it's so dramatic. And then you go, "Do you guys know any DSOs?" We don't know any of them. We don't know any of them. Do you know anyone who works at DSO? So it's such a dentist feeling thing. But I want you to continue because, but I mean, that type of drama, it just isn't helpful with this story. But I don't want to interrupt you. I just want to jump in and say that.
Yeah. So what ended up happening was I actually met some DSOs, and I was like, these are actually really cool people. And I was like, they're doing really cool things. And I learned a lot. And then I met some bad DSOs that weren't doing it a good way and weren't taking care of people. And then I started thinking back and going, I know a lot of single practitioners that are really great people, and they seem like really great dentists. And then I was told by others that, nope, those are actually not great dentists. They're not doing a great job. They're not being honest. And they were single locations. So I think it's just like anything. Like, yeah, like there's people who are out there who are, I don't like these kind of people, or I don't like these. There's good people in America and there's bad people in America. Yeah. There's good people in Canada and there's bad people in Canada. There's good dentists in DSOs and there's bad dentists in DSOs. There's good dentists in single locations and there's bad dentists in single locations. Once I figured that out, it's like, cool, okay, who's actually trying to make things better and actually improve people's lives? And that's where I want to spend my time and energy. But what actually makes what the thing that DSOs have to do, or else they'll die, is they have to be hyper focused on the numbers. If you're not hyper focused on the numbers, you will drown. You just will. And that's just the way that it goes, and there's no way around it.
So when they approach someone like you, Gary, and they're sort of, as we kind of move towards wrapping up, but I want to ask you a few more things. You have a few more minutes. When you're working with multi-locations for marketing, is there a real difference between the single location? I mean, are you thinking differently? Are they acting differently?
Yeah, only if you're rolling them up on the same website. If like the Heartland model. So a lot of dentists work with Heartland, but Heartland, they're all separately branded. So they are no different than your single location or someone else's single location. There's no really advantage. Now, when you roll everything up and you use like the Aspen model, where all the websites are on one website, and you can use that and leverage some of that brand and some of that SEO and things like that. There are advantages to that, but there's also disadvantages to that as well. So there's really three different business models from a marketing perspective I look at. There's the Heartland, there's the Aspen, and then there's the Pacific Dental, which is kind of in the middle. That what they do is they do everything looks the same, but everybody has different names. So they're not connected, but they kept their cost down by keeping branding consistent. And so that's kind of the in-between model. But outside of that, what the DSOs do offer is they roll up all their numbers and then they look at their aggregates and then they look at who's below baseline and who's high and who's in the middle, and then they help provide support to those that are struggling and bring them up. But if you don't look at your numbers and you're doing everything off your gut, then you're going to fail. Like, and I don't mean fail from a business standpoint. I don't mean fail from I'm not going to be successful overall. I mean, whatever initiative that you're trying to roll out, it's just a matter of time until it something doesn't go your way. But when you're using numbers, it changes everything, especially in marketing.
I love that message. I think dentists need to blend stats and stories. And sometimes people overvalue stories, like, the gut. And then some people overvalue stats. And just whether you're an athlete, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a dentist, it's this combination and paying attention to both of them. I love that. So you, Gary, if someone wanted to reach out to you and connect with you, I have two questions. One, tell us how they can do that. But that's not our last question. What's the best place for them to go to?
Yeah, smcnational.com is how you can get a hold of us. And if you want to just connect with me personally and you have questions, I'm actually a dental nerd. I love talking dental marketing. And this is what I do all day, if you couldn't tell. And so, you can reach out to me on The Gary Bird on any social media platform. Message me. I'll help you. I'll talk shop with you. Happy to talk through anything dental marketing. Awesome.
And that's usually the last question most time, but I like this to be the last question. Someone's listening, made this far. Who is someone to reach out to your team? I'll give you a few examples. If you're a practice owner doing $1.5 million and you think, I want to really get more implant or cosmetic dentistry patients, are they a good candidate to reach out to you guys to work together?
It really depends. So we would have to have a really honest talk. So number one, are they marketing already? So if you go from a non-marketing office to a marketing office, it's a very hard transition. And there's a lot of operational things that have to happen. Not saying that it can't be done, but someone needs to have an honest conversation around that. Gotcha. So that's number one. Number two is, do you have the bandwidth to handle those implant leads? Right. So if you're scheduling people way out, or if you can't convert on the phone with hygiene patients, you're not going to convert on the phone with implant patients. It's a much harder sell. As you move up the value ladder, it gets harder and harder and harder, and it gets more competitive as you move up. So it's just having an honest conversation around that with somebody who understands the marketing side of it and then the operational side. And then I have a lot of people that were just like, hey, you're not ready yet, but here's the things that you need to do to get ready. And I'm always happy to have that conversation.
Love that. You deliver so much value, both online and person. Love your attitude and energy. Gary, I'm going to take us off Facebook Live, but thanks so much for having this conversation with me. It's been awesome.
Hey, I just want to say before you go off, I appreciate everything you do. I always appreciate the way you try to positively approach every scenario and try to find a win in it. So I naturally gravitate towards that.
I really appreciate that. Well, we're kindred spirits with that. Thanks so much, Gary.